what we're learning is the difference between Adam Harishon Koydem Achet and Adam Harishon Acher Hachet. So Adam Harishon Koydem Achet had no Ra Bifnim. There was Ra in the world. Apparently there was a Nachash, but there was no Ra Bifnim. He didn't ingest the Nachash, the Eitz Hadas. I pointed out there's a very close, it's a very Dakistic of Toiv V'Ra. That was the mistake. Said that Mashiach is Gematria 358, Nachash is Gematria 358.
So why is Nachash Ra? And when did that, just because he convinced them? Or was he Ra before?
He was created, my understanding is that, like in a court, you have a prosecutor and a defense attorney. So the prosecutor is also good.
It doesn't mean it's right. It serves a good purpose.
Purpose of sort of MS and bringing out. He's not the bad guy. The prosecutor.
It's good purpose.
Right. Prosecutor could be your best friend if you're innocent.
He's also serves the Bechira even before the Chet.
So there was an Indian of Bechira, but so it's very Dakistic. That taking it in. So it was an effect of the neshama. It affected the neshama. It affected the actual wiring of the spiritual wiring of the human being. And Rabbi Tzadik explained that was the difference between the Luchos Rishonos and the second set of Luchos, because the Luchos Rishonos represented a time or a madrega in Klal Yisrael of Pascha Zuamasa. So that the Zuamasha of the Nachash was gone. Meaning, by standing at Har Sinai and hearing Anochi Hashem Elokecha Mipi HaGvura, the tikkun of the chet of the Eitz Hadas had finally happened. It took a long time. It took 2,448 years for that to happen. But it happened, and there was Pascha Zuamasan. And interesting that the Gemara tells us, because the Gemara understood all this, obviously, that when they built the Egel Hazav, they went back into the Chet of the Eitz Hadas. How do I know? Because it says that the Egel Hazav was Be'etcher Shal Nachash. It was the Etcher means Eitza. It was the Eitza of the Nachash. Kesher Nachash is a whole different thing. The answer is a repeat over and over again of the Chet of the Eitz Hadas. The Dor HaMabul was the Chet of the Eitz Hadas. The Dor HaPalaga was the Chet of the Eitz Hadas. The Chet of the Egel Hazav was the Chet of the Eitz Hadas. The Be'ayin Li Basar that happened the next case was all the Chet of the Eitz Hadas, which we are struggling to be masbir. But the point, I think, the very simple point that we can all understand is, I'm taking it for myself. You can be like God. You don't have to give all the control.
The enlightenment.
Right. You don't have to give all the control to Hashem. That's what the Nachash said, doesn't it? Like, you don't have to. What did when they built an Egel Hazav? What did they say? Same thing. Like, we don't have to give it. Like, we could ask a lot of Egel. He'll be our God.
Actually, aren't you describing the whole Yitzhak? I'm just trying to understand what Yitzhak was there then before the Nachash.
That question we keep on coming back to, but what Rabbi Tzadik says, "Avla ratzon haya linyan rak linyan nesayin ha'adam shu yisgaber negdai v'lo she'alei metzias b'amas klal." There should be Ra out there in the world somewhere, because by being Ra, having Ra in the world, it makes the Tov better.
So how was it from that what we have
Before we ingest it, you're not supposed to eat the Ra. It's just supposed to be there as a juxtaposition.
From the level of Bechira and Yitzhak, how was it?
Different type of Bechira than the Bechira that we're used to. The same type of Bechira L'chara that there'll be after Mashiach comes. There'll also be Bechira, but it's a different type of a Bechira. There won't be something burning within us to do something bad, which I want to explain. I think we're going to explain that, what happened. The before, I don't know, because I've never been there. The after, I know well. I know well. Like what happened after the Eitz Hadas, Farштeyach good. Before the Eitz Hadas, no Yitzhak Hara. I don't know. There has to be Ra there, but the Ra was not bifnim. So the Luchais Rishonos, let's finish our Chazara here. The Luchais Rishonos were all Begalui and Pascha Zoamasam. It was like at that moment at Har Sinai, it was Gan Eden Koydem Achet. Everything was perfect. And after they did the Chetz of the Egel, they couldn't get the Luchais Rishonos with all of those Gan Eden Nissen. They couldn't have that Gilui Gomorrah, so it was B'chashoy. And B'chashoy, he says, what happened is that yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Salachti Kidvarecha, and yes, there was a Bechila, but we did make the Egel Hazav, Pakoy Pakadati, we did make the Egel Hazav, so what happens now is that there's a selective Gan Eden Koydem Achet, whereas that's on Yom Kippur, Salachti Kidvarecha was on Yom Kippur, in the Mishkan, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, with the Kohen Gadol only, Luchai Shniyos B'chashoynin. Now, all of that wouldn't have been, there wouldn't have been a Yom Kippur if there wasn't an Egel Hazav. The holiday wouldn't have been invented. The only reason why there's a holiday of Yom Kippur is because we did the Chetz of the Egel Hazav. So if Adam Rishon Gan Eden wouldn't have had a Yom Kippur. So now we have a Yom Kippur. So Yom Kippur Hashem says, Salachti Kidvarecha. Okay, I'll bring you back to Shekhinah, but very, very carefully. And very, very selectively. It's only going to be, and no man can come into this oil moed at that time. So it wasn't, there was no B'pumbi Anoichi Hashem Olikecha, there was no B'pumbi Lo Yelucha Lo Yivacher. Quite, B'chashem. On the Chruvim. Says Rabbi Tzadik, and this is where we're holding, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, where you had this moment of Gan Eden, on Yom Kippur, where did the Shekhinah rest? On the Chruvim. On the Chruvim. Ben Abadim, on the Chruvim. Chruvim, the Chruvim, when the Babylonians removed the Chruvim, and then later the Romans, we have this in Kinais, they saw it, Mu'urim Zebazeh. The Gemara says in Moed Katan, Naftalit, I think, and Nundalit, Naftalit, and Yuma. They saw it as a Maisa Mu'urim Zebazeh, as like a Maisa area, Maisa Erva. What is this? Like, look at the Jews, look what they're into. So they saw it as some sort of a sexual cult. That's the way they looked at it, if I understand it correctly. They held out the Chruvim. This is the holy Jews. Okay, was it right? What they saw? So the answer is, and it was also a nes. I mean, it was a nes b'toich nes, because the only that when Yisrael oisid ritzayder shavaka, so the Chruvim were as pnei mishalachim. When they're not oisid ritzayder shavaka, they're looking, they were having a fight. They're not looking at each other straight in the eye. When the Romans come, or the Babylonians, actually the Babylonians come and take the Chruvim out there, but Urim's was that. So I were not oisid ritzayder shavaka. That's why there was a chorban to begin with. So, however you want to touch it, that well, by the time the attack came, we did tshuva. They were ritzayder shavaka at that moment. However you want to touch it, it was like a nes b'toich nes. But the look at mina kotzel akotzel. Look how you could interpret what it is that they saw at this moment. In other words, somebody walks out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Rishayim, they walk out of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, they're holding these Chruvim. Take a look how disgusting, as if they were but that was exactly the point. There's nothing special about them. Just like us, they're not chosen. There's nothing like that. So that was the sacrilege of the invasion. So no big deal. Nothing happens. It just happens. It's a cult of it's a sexual cult. So many before, so many after. Aliba de Emes. That was the makam of the Hashras HaShechina. That was the makam of the Hashras HaShechina. That's the makam of the Hashras HaShechina. The answer is, it depends where your head is. If your head is Galedim Koydem Achet, so that's all the Bechava. It was the most perfect, the most beautiful, the most clean, and the most pure a possibility. If you're Adam Rishon Acher Achet, so what do you see? It's disgusting. It's horrible. So the same exact Maisa, the same exact visual, can either have unbelievable kedusha, which takes you to other regions. Hashras hashchina, soif kol soif. This is salachti kidvarecha, accomplished, that we should be in Gan Eden koydem achet. This is perfect. But arumim heim, it's perfect. But the Romans couldn't be masig, like I can't be masig. They couldn't be masig adam harishain koydem achet. So to them, this was a dirty thing. So we say to them, get your mind out of the gutter. Like, don't you understand how holy we are? But okay, that was good for the Churuvim. That's the pshat. That's the Churuvim. The Churuvim is they saw us differently. Next case Rabbi Tzadik brings, which is even more compelling. K'masha Amru, Gemara Nida Daf Lamed Aleph. This was the blind spot of Bilam. Ani hagever shesum ha'ayin. What's the translation? Chaim? What's a shesum ha'ayin?
Blind. Someone's blind. Poked his
Blind and eye.
He said the Kedusha, but Rabbi Yaacov Haber said the in that component.
Lav dafka. Well, his mouth said kedusha. By the way, I think shesum ha'ayin means I am the gever who can see in one eye. I think that's the simple text.
Time? Yeah, but what is just...
Meaning I was blind in the other eye, I can see in one eye.
Right.
But yeah, gever shesum ha'ayin, I see with one eye. You look at the Targum, listen, yeah, gever de galya ein. I have one eye to see with. Right, look at the word shesum. Sounds like closed, right? Shesum sounds like closed, but it could be not. Shas. I have an shasiya. Shasas. Shas. Shesum ha'ayin. Well, dafka. But in any case, he was, however you want to read it, he was blind in one eye. So the Gemara says like this is a fascinating taich. The Gemara says in Nita, Gemara says in Nita daf lamed,
This is Lamed Aleph.
Lamed Aleph, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
Lamed
Lamed Aleph, thank you.
No, I don't know.
Darash Rabbi Abahu. Yeah, there we go. Darash Rabbi Abahu. That's why I couldn't find it. I was looking on Lamed. Darash Rabbi Abahu. Mai dichsiv. Says in the pasuk. Mi mana afer Yaakov umispar esrova Yisrael. Who said that? Bilam. Who can count the dust of Yaakov, like uncountable? Umispar esrova Yisrael. Who knows the number of rova Yisrael? So maza rova Yisrael. What's the big? What's the translation?
Multitudes?
Multitudes. Reish Beis Ayin.
It's the Zera.
The Zera. Who can count the amount of Jews, and who can count the Rova Yisrael, means the Zera Yisrael. Samoid Isha Lifnei Behema L'Rova Ba. Sarbia Behemtecha Kiloyim. I know all these psukim because they're in Kedoshim. Ravia is the lashon of Bia, Zera. L'Rava Ba. Not sure. But
Who can count or who does count?
who counts? Mi mana afer Yaakov, which I understand. Umisparis roiva Yisrael. Melamed. Says the Gemara, what was Bilam saying here? Lamed HaKadosh Baruch Hu, here's the story. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev v'sofer es riviyoseihem shel Yisrael. Kadosh Baruch Hu is Yoshev and counts. Kadosh Baruch Hu sits and counts. Revi'osehem Shel Yisrael, the intimate acts of the Jewish people. There's another one. Revi'osehem Shel Yisrael. Rashi says Revi'osehem Oinas Tashmishan. Tashmish. What's he? So it's a divine voyeurism. Kadosh Baruch Hu is Yoshev v'Sefer Revi'osehem Shel Yisrael. Oinas Tashmishan.
What's the mashma of oinas?
During the time that they're having tashmish. Their time of time. He's counting during the way I understand. He's counting during their time of intimacy. What's he counting? What's he watching? He's saying Masai Tavai Tipa Shad Sadik Noitzer Heimeno. Masai Tavai Hatipa. The pshat is that when it comes to, I'll give a biology lesson here, but I'll just add the Gemara. When it comes to zera, so there could be maybe hundreds of seeds in one act of tashmish, but one of them is the tipa shad tzadik yotze mimena. Biologically, scientifically, you can put 50 seeds in the ground when you plant a tree, but one or two takes. So we're talking about the tipa. Masai tavai hatipa shad tzadik neitzer himena. Which agav is a pella because the Gemara just said before that every tipa comes in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and a Kadosh Baruch Hu paskins on it, whether it'll be an Ashir or an Adi or a Chacham or a Shaitav and Tzadik v'Rasha loy nemar. The Gemara says Tzadik v'Rasha loy nemar. So what's the Yoshev u'Mitzapeh for the tipa shad Tzadik yotzei v'Mena? Hear my kasha? It's like such a good kasha. Tosfos should ask the kasha. He doesn't. I don't think it's such a good kasha. Why?
Sorry. The fact that he knows doesn't mean take away from Bechira. But he knows what's going to be tzaddik or not later on in Afrail.
All you're doing is opening up another kasha. Why isn't that a steer? It says before, tzaddik v'rasha loy never. There is no psak.
So what he's going to be later doesn't have to do with him.
So you're talking about potential.
The fact he's going to be later tzaddik v'rasha doesn't have to do with it. He knows now, because who knows now what's going to be with him. That's not taking from Bechira. It's not pasking him on him. That he's going to be Asher Oni. He's not pasking him.
He's saying this tipa is a tzaddik.
I know this is tipa.
There is a thing.
This guy's going to be tzaddik.
Doesn't mean there's not others that are not tzaddikim.
It doesn't mean that he's going to be Asher.
What the Gemara is saying here, or just let me defend my kasha. What the Gemara is saying here is that tipa is tipa. There is a tipa which is a tipa shel tzaddik.
No.
And the Gemara says that tzaddik v'rasha loy nemar. There's no psak on the tipa.
Correct.
The Gemara's not saying that.
Okay.
Kadosh Baruch Hu, when it says he's not asking, it means he's not limiting the bechira of a person. But it doesn't mean he doesn't know what's going to happen.
Correct.
Tzaddik v'rasha loy nemar.
Yeah,
The
no,
tipa.
but he's
Every tipa.
that-
Look, is it possible that the tipa should be capacity? Here's the fact. Isn't it possible that there could be a psak on somebody that he should be a chacham, and then he makes himself stupid? But there's a psak. You're a chacham. No, there's a psak. This is a tipa shel chacham. This is a genetic chachma. There's even wealth.
right.
Where does that come? A person could make themselves poor. You have bechira chafshas making themselves poor. No, there's a tipa. So there's just like that. There's a tipa of tzaddik.
If Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't limit the bechira, it doesn't mean that he doesn't know what the bechira is going to be.
Right, that's what he's saying. Okay. The way I understand this,
That's the classic paradox.
that is a classic paradox. But I'm not asking that. I'm saying that there's just the lashon of the Gemara is
No,
kosher
not
hadban.
patayt the way you're patayting it. He's saying he knows that the tzaddik is going to come. He's waiting for a tzaddik.
Masai tavai tipa.
He's waiting for a tzaddik. That's what.
Why you could Masai tavai tipa shat tzaddik noitzer heimena.
Because he's miyachas to that from the beginning of the yitzira of the.
You see,
Torah.
I think I think that it's usually true, but it's not always true. There is a gather of, it's on Shabbos, that Moshe Rabbeinu was born in Ismail Kol Abai Zohar. there is a gather of Noilan Mahul. And there's a gather even, as I said on Shabbos, of Miriam making the basket in a certain way, like Rashi says, Shal Yariach Oisoit Tzadik, the 30-day-old, 3-month-old Tzadik, Shal Yariach Oisoit Tzadik Reach Ra. So, and I think that every, so what's the pshat? So you could say, okay, potential, but I think the real pshat is that when he's saying Tipa Shel Tzadik, he means a Tipa Shel Mashiach. That in every door there's a Tipa Shel Mashiach, and that is the Smalach Kol Habayis. And it's not the same thing as the person who works to be a tzaddik. There are certain people that are, now they can mess up too, as did, according to the Rambam Bar Kochba. But Rabbi Akiva saw in him a Tipa Shel Tzadik.
The Paskin as a potential tzaddik. Like a potential
Mashiach, which is sent into this world to save the world. So that's a Nishmala Kol Habayis. It's a little bit hard for a Democrat to digest, but I think that everyone's created equal and a little bit more equal. There is such a Metzias. You see it in Chazal and probably if you'll go deeper into this Gomorrah, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is sitting and waiting, he's waiting for Mashiach to come out as the Chaloim of Parai. Like I see a tzaddik being created. It's different set of stars.
He's not waiting by every owner. You're saying it's just the Yechidah.
Okay, I'm saying. I think you'll find this shot in the Gemara and the Ramchal.
Well, we don't understand
Just
ways of
didn't have
waiting.
time to look for it. I think
I'm Chakulim Tzaddik.
Beseder. You're talking.
It means a special tzaddik. Yeah.
You're talking like very Litvish. You're talking about everybody has a chance to be a tzaddik. I'm not. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is probably, what's the significance of that? What's the significance of the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Yoshev Amayim? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, "Oh, here I have somebody. I'm waiting for him."
I'm saying like you. I'm saying Am Chakulim Tzaddik means every zera is a potential tzaddik. But there's Bein HaTzaddikim, there's one who's miyuchad.
That's right. And it's not necessarily, by the way, the biggest tzaddik. In other words, it could be Aaron was just as big of a tzaddik as Moshe.
That's tzaddik.
Malamed Shemoshe Aaron Shkulim Haim. We're not talking about tzaddik. But what Aaron didn't have, that Moshe had, was there wasn't this Nismala Kol Habayis Oira. That's what Aaron didn't have, which I think is because Moshe Rabbeinu had a different disposition. And that was that he was an Anav Mikol Adam. I think that's part of the mission. You look at the most clear Kashan history is that if you were living in the door of Rabbi Akiva and you had to pick a Mashiach, who would you pick? Rabbi Akiva, right? He was the Rabbi. Kol Ter Shabal Peh, Yavay Al Yadai. Kulam Alibid to Rabbi Akiva. Everything is Alibid to Rabbi Akiva. He was the father of Torah Shabbat, Tzaddik Kantor. Rabbi Akiva. There's somebody who, one of the characters of history, which is like beyond even understanding what he was. A Mukubal, about Halacha, about Messiah, about Shuvah. What was it? A diplomat with the Roman? What was it? Rabbi Akiva Galador. Rabbi Akiva said that be Bar Kochba. Who the heck is Bar Kochba?
Rabbi Akiva ben
Yosef. Maybe he was. But where did he pick it? Bar Kusba. It was Bar Kusba. It was an unknown guy. It's a different kind of show. And you can have the Malchus Beis David, which is one type of neshama, and you can have the Gedolei Adar, which is a different type of neshama. So I just think that's the pshat in the Gemara. I just want to allow me to go further, please, because I know everything is like a whole sugi we can go into. But let's get back to Bilam. Why it makes sense what I'm saying, and as I said, I believe I didn't see inside. I believe that the Ramchal says in the Adr Bamarim somewhere that what Bilam was looking at is like, what was he prophesizing about? Mimanah for Yaakov. He was talking about Mashiach. He was talking about Geula. In other words, he was talking about the fact that this Klal Yisrael is the chosen people, and they're going to be Masak in the Chet of Adam Arishan. That was exactly what he was talking about. And he says, therefore it follows. He wasn't just talking about the Jews. how you curse the Jews? You can't curse the Jews. The Jews are the ones that are going to bring upon the ultimate tikkun, which the Goyim didn't like. Why isn't it universal? Why isn't it? Avram said, "Lu yishma yichya lefanecha." Even Avram Avinu said that. But we got to the point in history. Yitzchak said maybe Esav should get the bracha. But it wasn't. We got to the point in history that no, it's mimana afer Yaakov, umispar es roiva Yisrael. That this tikkun and specifically this Mashiach is going to come from Klal Yisrael. Now, curveball. Val davar zeh nismeis enoi shel Bilam harasha. It was on this episode that Bilam went blind. On this episode that Bilam went blind. Omar. So Bilam said, I don't get it. Mishahu kadosh v'tahar. We're talking about Hashem. He's tahar v'kadosh u'misharsav tahirim u'kadoshim. So you recognize the Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Misharsav, or his malachim, I don't know what he meant. It was misharsav. Tahirim u'kadoshim yotzitz b'davar zeh, sitting there watching Tashmish Hamita. So Bilam, niva ve'enu yodeh ma niva. Like he had a nevuah, and he saw something so holy. He saw the most unbelievable thing, the holiest thing, and he says to Kadosh Baruch Hu's chas v'shalom is a manovel. This is what kind of a cult is this? The same thing that the Babylonians and the Romans said when they took out the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Isn't it the same thing? Exactly the same thing.
They don't get it.
Al Dover said, Nismes, he went blind. Einoi shel Bilam harasha. Omar, Mishu Torah v'Kadoshim, Misharsim Torah v'Kadoshim, Yotzitz b'Dover zeh, Miyad Nismes Einoi. Immediately one eye, because it says in the Chumash that Vayar be'einav means his two eyes, and then it says ayin. The sim nuum hagever shesum ha'ayin. Hainu the Amar Rabbi Yochanan v'chulu. So there's a segue here. There's a cause and effect, which I just want to understand for a second. The cause and effect of Bilam seeing something that was very, very holy. What he was zocheh to see was the holiest thing. Denigrating it and turning it around to something terrible, something disgusting. And what? As an onesh, he became blind, like in one eye.
And he's the one who says, Ma tovu alecha.
Kosher l'zeh ma tovu alecha Yaakov mishkanei Yisrael. Which I think was...
Which is not looking at...
Which was negative, not positive.
Well, it's not looking at what's inside the house.
No, meaning like... Okay, this I understand. Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, this I understand. Nobody should be looking... Nobody should be looking into each other's windows. A little privacy here, a little sneas. So what he was going with was sneas. If you take it to a Christian level, what he was talking about was celibacy. What he was talking about was the evil of the whole thing is like dirty. And what's HaKadosh Baruch Hu doing? HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Yoshev V'Sefer is Riyas and Shal Yisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Big Basher Shchinasai on the Chruvim. And V'ish V'isha with the right Kavanah Shchina Shruya B'neihem. So what didn't Bilam get? Bilam didn't get a Metzias of Adam and Chava in Gan Eden Kodim Achet. That were Arumim, and that was just fine.
How do you know that maybe his going blind in one eye was made him do or reconsider that maybe Alech Yaakov are Kodesh in the way that it really is?
You have a better eye than I do.
No, I'm just saying,
Oh, you're saying you're giving up the benefit.
Right there, he does something. He looks at it the wrong way. He goes blind and white. What's going on here? Oh, maybe
You're assuming he did tshuva. Well, Chazal say we killed him because he didn't do tshuva. That's why I'm giving. There's something about Bilam that if you just read the Chumash, like the Old Testament, like he's like a really good guy. If you read Rashi, my gosh, this man. It's like this is one of the cases where Pirush Rashi, like he turns his whole Messias around, which I find is true by a lot of people. Yeah?
Yeah, Rashi following them.
Right. Pirush Rashi. Huh? Yeah, but I'm saying sometimes the postures as well, like I holy.
Without Peish Rasha,
Asa
Asa
is,
is,
I just want to how much before I left, I don't have the Sefer Ad Ramchal Ad Bamar, but I just found this. If it came, I just emailed me this one paragraph. Emailed myself if it came through. I want to read you. I want to learn with you this Maral, not the Maral we were speaking about a minute ago, but a little bit different. V'ha'inyan. This is an Adr Bamarim. Interesting, by the way, the Adr Bamarim, the reason I remembered this in the Ramchal is Siman Ayin Reish, which is really Siman Reish Ayin. Because he didn't want to do Ra. We were talking about Ra, so interesting thing. But just to understand this, to understand what's an Ayin Hara, the whole idea of Bilam is an Ayin Hara. So a lot of levels of understanding an Ayin Hara. Right, Ayin Reish. I mean, there's like, my mother's derech, kind of Hara. Not kind of somehow she knew implicitly that there's something wrong with, poo. That's one derech. So what? But Bilam's ayin hara, like Bilam is ayin hara, and then ayin hara. The whole thing he wanted to give it ayin hara, and then he was a shusum hayin. But he was blind in one eye. So like, what's the kesher? And then how did he go blind in one eye? Because well, was he by give? I think an ayin hara is when you are blind in one eye. But how did he get to this madrega of blind in one eye, and therefore ladati to the madrega of ayin hara? He got there by seeing HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moina Reviyasin Shal Yisrael. So let's say before the Ramchal, let's just say something very posh. Like two people see one thing, and they see something different lagamri. So, like the Chovos HaLevavos gives this example, the famous example. He says two people walking by a dead dog, and one of them says, "Ma mechuar menuvol kelev zeh," and the other one says, "But take a look at those beautiful teeth. Like this dog really had gishmaka teeth." It's. I was walking once with a Talmud Chacham, talking about now 35 years ago, and we walked by. We were in the old city. And there was a dead wolf on the street. I kid you not. Thank God, it's better than, the only thing worse than finding a dead wolf on the street is finding a live one. There's a dead wolf on the street. And I'm like, I don't know, we're going to get hit by a car. And by then, I don't remember, it was like a really bloody scene. And the guy with me, it was a Talmud Chacham, and he said, we both commented, that's a dead wolf. And he said, "Oh, the Gomorrah says that if you suffer from insomnia, you should sleep with the tooth of a dead wolf under your pillow." So Ra Ma'asav v'Nisker Halach. So he figures out how to pull out one of the teeth of this wolf, and he puts it in his pocket. I'm not going to have insomnia for the rest of my life. Echadabi Talmud Chacham. So where I'm like, let's get the heck out of here. Why? He's like, he's like seeing the wow. I'm gonna solve myself. So here,
you get the tooth?
You got the tooth.
You ever check with him?
Sleeping.
Still sleeping.
Still sleeping. You can make a lot of money. He actually made, if I recall, I remember exactly, made like a wolf tooth gemach.
Oh, see.
Anybody who's suffering from, I remember he even asking Ger Steinberg, who was our Rebbe, like will it work if you grind it up and then make a number of different, and give it out to 20 people? I also remember the answer of Rav Scheinberg. How am I supposed to know? I'm stuck about it. Okay. So, but anyway, so here you have a Maisa of Bilam, Ayin Hara, Shusum Ayin. The symbolism of being able to see with one eye is not being able to see the whole picture. It's like the king and the queen and the jack on the cards. Like, what's with that one eye thing? They're not seeing the whole. Turn over. They're not there. There's something about misinterpreting what you see, and in the case of Bilam, to something negative. And Bilam, nisma einav shaloisei rasha b'oisei zman. He became blind in one eye. You're looking at the holiest thing in the world. You're looking at the hashras hashchina, Kadosh Baruch Hu moiner v'yasin shal Yisrael. You're looking at the fact that ish v'isha hashchina shar b'neihem, and you're looking at the Chruvim, essentially, and you're looking at Adam and Chava koydem achet, and you say tamei. So that's a shusum ha'ayin. That's a shusum ha'ayin. This is something that I'm just a simple level of ayin hara. One level higher than my mother, maybe, or whatever, more intense. Is not just a poo-poo. Like an ayin hara is the person who's looking at something which could be good, and he's seeing something which is bad. Well,
You look depending on
what you are. It says in Pirkei Avos, Yeshua ben Prachi, I believe, Havidanis kol ha'adam l'kavskos, which everybody is medayik. It doesn't say kol adam, every person. Havidanis kol ha'adam. Every person, just in general, every person is that I've ever met anyway has a combination of tov and ra. But the trick is to not just be swayed by the ra and say, this is a bad person, and become sinas chinam, but to see the tov, the ra, to understand everyone's a mezek. We don't like to do it because it's too complicated for our brains to either tov or ra, like there's a black and white world. But it's not true. It's just simply not true. There is no. It's a hard one to swallow. That almost every, maybe Amalek not. I don't know. Maybe there's such a thing as Amalek, which doesn't have any tov in it at all. Maybe there's such a thing as a Mashiach, like a Moshe Rabbeinu, which has no ra at all. But Al Pirov, anyways, the people I've met are tov ra mizug.
Atem kruim Adam, maybe someone will get on us.
That there were a combination of tov ra.
No, Atem kruim Adam. So kol ha'adam kavschus goes on Yidden, not on right.
Yeah, could be.
Yitzchak was blind in both eyes, and he saw the good and the bad.
But even in the simplest shot, Yitzchak was blind and he was good with Esav.
It could be that he's blind in the right eye, so that's blocking now the more rachamim, the more chesed side. So we're blind in both eyes, and it's balanced against using a judgment of an even balance.
So all good theories, Emes. Really, all good theories. Let me just tell you something. The Ramchal says very deep. This is Lashon Ha'inyanhu. This is a paragraph. Ein davar b'chol ha'briya she'ein chelak b'neshama connected. New teaching. That everything that's in the Bria out there is microcosmed, is that the right word, in one's neshama. Neshama has the whole Bria in it. Tzara shia kesher bein chelkei haneshama lebria. Okay, I'm not even going to touch them. Just you touch. I'll tell you what it. You tell me what it means. V'zek haneshama he raya hadvarim u'mitztayrim hadvarim ba'atzma. Who ki ba'askila al davar echad hine hadavar hu vaday hu nishesh ba'kfar. You understand the chiddush here? A person can't see anything until his neshama has it in there. You can only see with the eye what the neshama already possesses.
Before you're born. You're given as you're born.
Well, you, me, now.
But you're given as
whatever. I don't know how stuff gets in your neshama. Maybe you're born, maybe you accumulate it, maybe you can't see anything more or less than what your neshama possesses. Understand it? Meaning that if a person only sees bad, it's not a problem with you don't go to an ophthalmologist, you go to a soul doctor. If a person sees good, so it means you have a good neshama. So what you see, Amish. So two people are walking by, one sees the wolf's tooth and one sees the wolf's blood. Lashon achar v'savavis. Shneim over malkela of mace. So it's not like, okay, I'm trained, I'm disciplined to try to find the good. Pshat is that is the eye. What you see is only what's there. It's like, if I understand the concept correctly, it's like it's a lens, sachakol. But there has to be something which is makabel, the image, a film, something. It's a lens. So if you have, I hope I'm right technologically, but the muscle's there. If you have black and white film, if anybody remembers film, if you have black and white film, so you're only going to get a black and white image. Black and white, either good or bad. If you have a color film, you get a color image. If you have high quality color film, remember the days where there was all kinds of numbers. But there was all kinds of numbers and speeds and everything like that. Now it's all not gay any longer. Learned all that for nothing.
High definition.
Not gay any
3D.
longer. So interesting. What?
Now there's 3D.
Yeah.
3D.
There must be something to the fact that but in the messes up everything. There must be something in the fact that the film doesn't exist. But if we could understand the mashal, you can't see except for what your neshama has in it already. So if your neshama is like seeing only bad, really, the external diagnosis of that is that you're a shesum high. Like if you encounter someone or you find yourself, you see, it's very interesting because I think in Western culture, like the cynical person, the person who's able to see the negative and everything positive, is called smart, intelligent. Even in Israeli called, don't be a friar, But okay, MS, because there are bad people there, so like there is something to having somebody on your team who could see something, who could see bad. But you don't want to be that person, because that person with the cynical eye, that's ayin hara. That is the evil eye. Ani agever shesum hayin. And where do you see it the most? In the Gomorrah. You see that Bilam is looking at a mice of kedusha. He's looking at a mice of kedusha, and he's seeing something wrong. So says the Ramchal, this unbelievable teaching. Hadashava hi roya advar b'mitztayrim hadvar ba'atzma v'hu ki ba'askil al dover echad hidei adover uvaday hu nishrash b'kfar. If you see something a certain way, obviously it's there already. Rak'at shloi rasa, so what do you have to see it for? It's there already. Rak'at shloi rasa is v'nitztayrim b'tzurasa ein asher shehu shalei ba. You have sort of an incomplete image until you see it. But once you see it, I say, Az mitztayeres ba'hatzura yehi mamish, haynu ba'ise ha'koyach sheba, shu sherish l'davar ahu. So your neshama completes its circuit with the visual and what you see. Whole different idea of seeing. Like you thought you see with your cornea. You thought maybe your brain is behind it. No, not your cornea, not your brain, not your heart. Your neshama is behind everything you see. What you see. It's like. Well, he's not telling you this is not a Musar savior. He's telling us the technology. This is how it works. Vaz nikra. I guess nobody else knows the secret but us. Vaz nikra shehi chosheves b'davar ahu v'yediyasei oisai. Liyos mitzuyer ba. You see what you think. You see what you are. You see what you are. V'zeh ki Hapratim hem chelkei haklal v'anashama bo mushrash hakol haklal v'haprat v'hinei b'chol prat shetira tistachel olav ad shetidbakehu v'ad she'edu v'aseges hu k'var she'esh ezu b'niyah lifnei elav she'edu yachol liros kach edu roya be'emes hadavar ahu. So it means like if you don't have something in your neshama, you're trying to look at it and understand it, you have a sort of a spiritual cataract.
Acher.
Huh?
Acher.
It all has to do with what your re'iyah is. This is really the deep lesson of Bilam. Because the Ramchal, just to finish, B'nimsa, is the Ramchal, sheyesh b'neshama koyach roya es hakol. Everything's in the neshama. L'chol asher tasim panel listakel shem. B'imloi hayoloi marnei atirana v'yitztarbo. V'ri'iyas ha'ayin. This is the underlinable point. V'ri'iyas ha'ayin gam kein b'derech zehu ki haneshama b'koyach havanosa azos mispashetas derech b'kiyas ha'ayin v'roya u'mitzayeres. So the eyes are just simply the lens of the neshama, and then the Ramchal goes on to explain, by the way, in the next paragraph, I don't have here, that the eyes are actually a two-way street, which is another fascinating teaching, but not. In other words, when you give an ayin hara, that's something coming from your neshama onto the person. So there's a two-way. It's not chatzitri here. What it means is that that I see bad instead of seeing good is a reflection of my neshama. But it gets worse than that. I could take that bad. Here's another chiddush. I could take that bad and I could use it to curse. So I'm just taking a break from the Ramchal for a second. The Marsha says here, what was the mechanism? Marsha Nidal Lamed Aleph. Marsha says the mechanism was that when Bilam saw HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mona Reviyasin Shal Yisrael, he saw them with this voyeuristic. So he said, "Oh, I see a scandal here. I see a scandal here. If I see a scandal here, now I have a handle on which to curse Klal Yisrael. I can give an ayin hara on this."
I thought he couldn't give more than what you have, Yeshua.
Because he could see the bad
And work with that.
to give a curse.
Once he saw it,
Right, because his neshama was bad, and this is what Chazal knew. Ba'omek havanasam, that you read it, you're not reading his neshama. Pirish Rashi, let me tell you the neshama shaladavar. Why did he see bad? He saw bad because he was bad.
Once he saw that, he was able to give that.
I think like an Eidech comes and reports something that has no halacha ramifications. Like, what does the patient have to say to this guy? Like, not just why are you coming to report your Eidech, but like, why did you see that? I saw a bad thing. Why did you see that?
Shlomo Carlebach tells a story about a rasha who saw one of the Lamed Ravniks, and he saw it was ugly. It was because he was ugly inside.
There you go.
Yeah.
So he says here at the end, "Be'emsa niftzak v'hainu ki b'shuva litzdayer b'mkoim atifka ba'ayin v'taver derech shav v'ozlo yatzir al gashmi shim lo hoya ayin shamay." Okay. B'nimsa, last line of the paragraph, "Sha'neshama mispashetes derech b'kiyas ha'ayin." Neshama mispashetes. How does your neshama get on? How do I get my neshama onto you? My neshama is all over you. Derech b'kiyas ayin. Now it's my nose. Now it's my mouth. Now it's my ears. Derech b'kiyas ayin. The way you get your neshama onto something, dvarim hayotzi min alev nichnasim alev. The way I get neshama onto somebody is derech b'kiyas ayin, is by looking. So I can give ayin tova. So the Pirkei Avos says like there's the greatest. What's the greatest thing she'ivur loy ha'adam? Ayin tova. What's the worst thing she'ivur loy ha'adam according to one shita? Ayin hara. How could that be the worst thing? Ayin hara is the word. Ezer derech rasha yiver lo adam. Ayin hara. Rabbi Yossi said, ayin hara. Well, okay, ayin hara. Like, why is the bad? Why is that the worst? The worst thing. The answer is because ayin hara has nothing to do with ayin. Ayin hara has to do with neshama. Rabbi Lazar ben Aruch said, no leiv toiv. It's not about your neshama. It's about your leiv. But the chiddush of Rabbi Yaacov Haber is b'chlal dvar of divreihem, that in the leiv links to the neshama also. Same, different shmuz. But the reason why ayin hara, so the derech ayin. Let's get that sentence again. Nimsa. This is the bottom line. Shaneshama mispashetas derech b'kiyas ha'ayin. V'chayzeres l'sharsha derech ha'ayin atzma. A two-way street. V'sham nasa hatziyur. So there's what I see, that's tziyur, and there's what I put out there. And that's what Bilam said, I can curse because I can see the bad. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzma. I can see the bad. Comes Rabbi Tzadik, just to sum up the week, and he says, so what's going on over here? What's going on over here is that Bilam had no kasher. V'shaber dal zed nismas eino shalosh rasha aber bishu kadosh v'sharzim kadosh v'stakel b'davar zeh ube'emes says Rabbi Tzadik bishu kadosh atzlai eid zeh. If Bilam would have been a kadosh, he wouldn't have seen any ma'aseh erva. B'davar shalgnai ubusha klal. What would he have been? Ka'adam arisha ka'adam achet. Dahaya harumim v'lo yisbashashim. They were fine with their nakedness because there was a davar toiv there, and the davar toiv was the Adam Arishan ka'adam achet.
So when one sees something bad and then changes his mindset, what is changing his neshama? How does that?
Say it again.
If someone sees something bad or has an initial instinctive inclination to see something.
So it sounds like there's two things going on. One thing that's going on is if they see something bad, there's something bad going on that they can put out. And another thing is that the ra is mashrish on the neshama guf.
No, but if someone then changes and sees it in a different light or works on himself and
So see toiv.
So how does that work with the neshama?
You can change your neshama. That's why I was disagreeing with him. It's not like you're born with this kind of neshama. That however you get there, you can work on your neshama. It's a chiddush right? You can work on your neshama, and the big, it comes out that if you want to know about somebody's neshama or your own neshama, and you want to know where you're holding, you just have to look at how you see things. Look at how you see things. I spend a lot of time thinking lately, I don't know why, about, is there good people and bad people? Is there actually, at what point do you say somebody's like a bad person? Who's a bad person? And therefore, Nafkamina is rabbi, get divorced. Be married to a bad person. There's problems with the shalom bias. Is there such a thing?
If you're allowed to hate.
Or if you're allowed to hate them. There's like so many different, where, how do you cross that line of good person with problems to a bad person? But I certainly don't know how to pass that question. But good and bad has to do with the condition of the neshama. The condition of the neshama, how can anybody possibly know the condition of somebody's neshama or our own neshama? The answer is how you see things.
And if we see bad people, it's
something wrong. Something wrong. See, people see everything negative about everybody, or we see ourselves. See, this was bad, that was bad. You think this is good, too much perverse rasha.
Judge everyone for the good.
My mother, whenever she would see somebody do something really nice, she'd say, "Oh, what a good nisham." It was like,
Standard.
yeah, but this adds another level.